Hello, my name is John Schneider. When I was a kid, I used to visit my Grandma Vi in the Jersey Bayshore area, and I'd take 8mm movies of my family and their friends. In fact, I was the family filmmaker. Today I live here, but traded my film camera for video, and recently shot this tugboat in the Shrewsbury River. Welcome to Jersey Bayshore country. This is where you'll find Raritan Bay, the Atlantic Ocean, as well as Sandy Hook Bay. Where is the Jersey Bayshore? Let's get oriented by starting with the big picture. It's somewhere in here, part of the universe, and definitely part of our world. But it's like no place I've ever experienced. And as soon as we land, I'll show you around. Okay, everybody, hello and welcome to the program. I'm John Schneider, your host, and I'm the captain of the show, but the captain of the Bayshore is my good friend, Captain Dan Schade. How you doing, Danny?
John, good. Great to see you.
I'm glad you could take some time out from your boating to join us in the studio. Tell me about your boats. You've got a couple of boats, don't you?
Yes, John, and I like to refer to myself as the one-armed bottom painter. I do everything. The bottom painting, the marketing, the side painting, the varnishing, and I'm looking for some people to help me. So if
good.
The show, maybe you can.
Well, I'm taking off my captain's hat right away, so I don't look like I know what I'm doing.
All right, yeah. Well, we have three boats right now. We have a 54-foot charter boat that was built in Deltaville, Virginia, 1978 wooden boat. Wood boats ride best. That's our motto. She's a 40-passenger, and we also have putting new into service this year. 24-foot Hubert Johnson Blackjack, which was built in Point Pleasant at the Johnson Brothers Yard, and she's a beauty. And also a 18-foot Charlie Hankins, which was built in Lavalette, and Charlie Hankins was famous for building all the lifeguard boats on the Jersey Shore many years ago.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So these are wooden boats, and that's what we specialize in, is the wooden boat.
Now, there are lots and lots of boating opportunities for folks who come to the Jersey Bayshore from Keyport to Sandy Hook. What are some of those opportunities, and what can people do with boats when they get here? What are some of the activities that they can pursue?
Well, John, if we start in Keyport at exit 117,
okay,
and then we'll go down to the Keyport bulkhead and the water area there. You've got two boatyards, Peterson's. They once built beautiful wooden boats at the Jersey Shore. And then Olson Boatyard, where one of our boats was built. But then there's the Keyport boat ramp. So if you have a boat and you want to bring it down to the Jersey Bayshore and launch it yourself, you can use the Keyport boat ramp. And if you don't have a boat and you want to go fishing, you can go out fishing on the head boat, the Captain John. She's right there at the Keyport bulkhead. And then when we move out of Keyport, go to Union Beach. They've got a beautiful waterfront there. And if you were like a car topper, a canoe, a kayak, you could put it in the water right there at the Union Beach beachfront. And then we go down to Keansburg, and there's a couple of marinas down there, and there may or may not be a boat ramp, an active boat ramp, but there's some marinas there. And then, the water park, Keansburg Amusement Park, and the water park, that's always a fun time. But as we go up the shore, and then we got Belford Creek and the Belford Seafood Co-op, one of the oldest fisheries on the northeast area. And it's just a great scenery. If you go down there, you could see all the old fishing boats and really, take in the nostalgia of what was once a vibrant fishing area in this area.
Leonardo, of course, the public boat ramp there.
That's right, Leonardo State Marina. You got the boat ramp there, and there's a couple of nice beaches on either side of the Leonardo State Marina, so you can, free beaches, bay shore beaches, and bring your boat to the Leonardo State Marina and launch it there. Be careful not to go past the end of the ramp, or your trailer tires will be stuck at the end of the ramp. And
oh my gosh!
Not to fall a tow truck. So try to use that ramp at high tide.
Okay.
And then let's sweep over to Atlantic Highlands. They've got a big boat ramp there. And also in Atlantic Highlands there are head boats, fishing boats. Most of them sail at 7:30 in the morning, 7 a.m. There's maybe 10. And you don't need a reservation, or you don't have to charter the boat. You just go down there and hop on one of the boats that you like, and then swoop around from Atlantic Highlands and go to the Highlands, and then you have
Papamora Point Beach.
Right,
yeah.
Right, yeah. There's a Monmouth County Park, and there's facilities there, bathrooms, and free parking, and then there's a great little sandy beach there where you can kayak and canoe and swim, if you've got kids and you're coming down the beach. and you want to, you know, the ocean's too scary for the little kids, you bring them to that beach. It's a great little beach. It's got a fantastic water flow from the Navesink, Shrewsbury Rivers and the Sandy Hook Bay and the ocean. So it's a nice clean beach, so that's a good little spot. And then when we're in Highlands, there's plenty of charter boats in Highlands, different boats you can go out on, the Kathleen D sailing catamaran, and then we have another head boat, the Elaine B at the Bars Landing in Highlands. And there's a couple other little fishing charter boats there as well.
There's a variety of things to do and see when you're on a boat in the Raritan Bay and the Navesink and the Shrewsbury Rivers, as well as the Atlantic Ocean. What are some of those things? What are some of the, I know including your own boats, what are some of the things that people like to see?
Well, just in the Sandy Hook Bay, Raritan Bay, you know, vortex of Sandy Hook and Earl Navy Pier. I mean, just do a little loop around there and you can go over to Officers Row, Sandy Hook, and observe the officers' quarters from the seaside, and then you see Sandy Hook Lighthouse from the seaside, and then you can swoop around back into the bay and you can see the ships at Earl Navy Pier. And then you come back in and you go along the coast there, along Leonardo, and there's the old Chapel Hill Lighthouse. Then you get through the Atlantic Highlands Harbor if you're on the water, and there's lots of boats in there to see on anchor, and transient boats and yachts, mega yachts. And then come back up toward the Highlands, up into the Shrewsbury River, and you see the vistas of the hills, and also the twin lights you can see from the water. And then there are numerous restaurants where if you're in your own boat or chartering a boat, you can dock and dine. You know, so you have a lot of interesting places to go to that you can get to by car, but it's a lot more fun to get there by boat.
Oh, sure. Now you also go up the Navesink River as well, and what can people see as they go up in the boat to say Red Bank?
Okay, well, we go under the Highlands Bridge, then on the right-hand side you have Hartshorn Woods, and then we swoop around the corner and go up the Navesink, and there's a little beach over there which is accessible by Hartshorn Woods in the Monmouth County Park System. And then on the left-hand side, before you get to the Oceanic Bridge, there's Barley Point, a small community in Rumson, which is just a summer residence, beach bungalows. Let's go up underneath the Oceanic Bridge, and now we see all the mansions on the Navesink, which is on the right side, Navesink River, Middletown. John Bon Jovi's house is there.
And people can see where he lives? They can see the house?
Yes, they can see his house. And
wow.
Telly Savalas' old house is there.
No kidding. Now, going back to John Bon Jovi, have you ever seen him in his lawn waving to your passengers? No?
I have not seen him on his lawn, no. But he keeps a boat on a lift. He has a dock at his house, and he keeps a boat on a lift, and I've seen him on the boat. I once saw him at Bars Landing in Highlands when I was doing the boat rides, and I said to my wife, that guy did a good job docking that boat. And, you know, there was a lot of current underneath there, you know, he docked and dined. And then I said, John Bon Jovi. She said, oh, you know, and he had a baseball cap on, and he had his dad and his son with him, and he went inside and had lunch.
So you've had folks that have chartered not only your boat, but other boats for weddings, you know, asking someone to marry them, etc. What are some of the other things, the unusual things you've had as charters, or that you know of other captains that have had as charters?
Well, you know, the majority of the charter boats in the area are fishing charters, which is, you know, pretty straightforward. And a lot of the guys where I keep the boat at Bars Landing, they're very good fishermen. So that's one thing, you know, and ours is more of a sightseeing, a tourist type thing. We had a nice wedding out of the Channel Club in Monmouth Beach a year ago where the bride and groom wanted to go home from the wedding reception to the Molly Pitcher Inn via water. So I picked them up at 10 o'clock at night at the Channel Club and took them on a really long, slow ride up the Shrewsbury and around up in the Navesink and dropped them off at the Molly Pitcher. And they were delighted, so that was nice. And then we've had some proposals, you know, and the guy's like, you know, I'm going to take my girl out, this and that. I said, is there anything special? And he's like, oh, no, not so bad. And then he proposes to her, and I'm like, well, it's a good thing she said yes. It would have been a long ride home, you know. So, you know, if somebody wants to do something, you know, we get champagne or roses, flowers, or, you know, make a little surprise for the lady, you know.
Now, the other thing that I'm always boasting about at the Jersey Bayshore is this idea that there are beautiful sunrises and beautiful sunsets in this area. You must have seen some spectacular spectacular sunsets out there on the water. Is that right? I mean, are they just absolutely fantastic?
I never get tired of taking pictures of the sunset, John. I just,
Really?
it's great. And then, you know, as the mood on the boat is contagious, I mean, you know, I see the sunsets quite frequently because I'm always out there. But I get a group of people on the boat, and then, you know, we get out into the bay, and everybody, you know, the sun's setting, you know, over the Raritan Bay, and you turn the motor off and you just start drifting. You know, we put some Bob Marley on or some Jimmy Buffett, and everybody's just in awe at the sunset, and they just naturally applaud at the sunset. It's beautiful to watch the sunset over the water. It's beautiful.
Now, can someone come to the Jersey Bayshore and rent a boat? You know, probably not a big boat. It used to be back in the day. There used to be lots of places at the Jersey Bayshore where you could rent a little rowboat or a little motorboat and go out and try your hand at fishing or explore the river. Are there still such places to do that around?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, John. I get a lot of calls for people that don't want to charter a boat, they want to rent a boat, and I tell them these are the places you can go and call. And, you know, if basically from, you know, Keyport exit 117, there's not really anybody renting anything until you get to Highlands.
Okay.
And then we go up into the Navesink. But at Highlands, we have Shop's Landing, which is, you know, right near the Highlands Bridge, right next to Barr's Landing, where I keep one of the boats. Mm-hmm. And then we go up the river. And, you know, shops you can rent, you know, skiffs and, you know, motorboats like, you know, where you're driving with the little tiller steering. And then we go up the river and get into Rumson. We have Oceanic Marina, which is right near Barnacle Bills and Salt Creek Rail. And they rent kayaks, paddle boards, pontoon boats.
Oh,
and,
really?
Yeah, and they have the little skiffs as well. And then we go up into Red Bank, and we have Irwin's. He has some little skiffs you can rent. And then up underneath the Highway 35 bridge, there's Red Bank Marina, where a fellow back there, he rents the little skiffs too. So you basically got the whole river covered if you want to go and come down and do some flounder or fluke fishing or crabbing, or just, you know, go out and have a little picnic and have some fun. You know, there's 4 different places you can rent a boat from.
Now, speaking of fish and crabbing and all that, there are a nice variety of fish here in the Raritan Bay and in the Atlantic Ocean. What are some of the kind of fish that you might catch out there? Not all of them, but some of them.
You know, flounder and fluke, they're prominent in the spring and summer. And you know, as the weather gets colder, you can go for striped bass. In the spring, there's a striped bass run, a fish run on the striped bass, and also in the winter. And then the
blackfish. Right?
Oh, blackfish, togging.
The tog, yeah, the tog. I'd never heard of the tog until I came to this area.
Yeah, and that's pretty extreme. The guys that do that kind of fishing, you know, it's a colder weather fishing, and they have to anchor on the wrecks. You know, they put out 2 anchors and they anchor right on the wrecks, and that's extreme sport. You know.
Is that a big fighting fish? What is that? Why is it extreme? Why do you say it's extreme?
Well, it's usually cold weather.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And then, you know, so that makes it extreme in that regard. And it could be windy, so the conditions aren't pretty. You know, like a sunset cruise on one of our boats, it's just fun and happy. If you're going out tog fishing, you know, you like fishing. You know, you're not just like let's go fishing. And then you have your nighttime blue fishing trips,
okay,
which you know, a lot of the head boats in Atlantic Highlands do. You know, you do those nighttime blue fishing trips, and then if you're going to call your favorite charter guy, I mean, he'll probably take you fishing anytime you want. You know, fish for any species you like.
What are some of the things that you've seen on the water that you would describe as a little bit different? Have you ever seen a submarine? Have you seen a pod of porpoises, a whale, any of that kind of stuff?
Well, you know, when we go by Earl Navy Pier, my wife's always saying, "You only have submarines out here," and I'm like,
I heard that too.
I said that, but they do.
Ah.
You know, but yeah, so I've never seen them, but I know that
That's
they
because
come
they're underwater.
You're right. You're right, John. It's by design.
What is Earl? The Earl weapons? I guess it's the Navy weapons station, Earl.
Yeah.
What is that from your standpoint? I think that's where they replenish the ammunition and the munitions for a lot of the ships that go off to do battle. But
well, that was the original design. You know, it was a naval weapons pier. You know, to stock load the ships with weapons. And you know, nowadays I think it's probably more used for peacetime activities. You know, supplies and etc. But there are, weapons that still need to be loaded onto the ships, and that was the main purpose of that pier. There is an area where you can't get any closer to.
Have you gone into that area like I have and been chased away by the military police?
I try to avoid that, John.
I got the bullhorn and the gun and everything. The other thing that I think is interesting in the whole Raritan Bay area is that you can be a little tiny boat like mine, 10-foot, 10-horsepower boat, and you look around and suddenly there's a big ocean liner.
Yeah.
Or a big freighter. I mean, a big freighter right next to you.
What are you going out in the Ambrose Channel, John?
I am.
You gotta stay around the tip of the hook. If you rent one of these little boats, they say, don't go further than
Well,
this
what
point.
amazes me is there is a channel where the big boats go right at the tip.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right at the tip of Sandy Hook. It's so close, you think, how could it be that deep?
Yeah.
And then it kind of goes on the outskirts of the Navy Pier, and then it comes up around the west or the south side, I guess, of Raritan Bay, and then goes up. Where's it going? Those ships that go that way? They're going up the river. Is it the Hudson or the East River? Or what
A lot of them are going into Perth Amboy and back into Staten Island. Into there's some refineries back there, so that's where a lot of them are going. And then some of the other ships are going under the Verrazano and then anchoring and waiting, to be called into port.
Have you ever been involved in a rescue?
Well, unfortunately, I can say no, I have not. But it's something, when you're on the water and you think, oh, I'm going to have some fun, there's a lot of things you got to take into consideration. It could be dangerous. You have to be aware of your surroundings at all times and avoid collision with another vessel at all times, and pay attention, keep watch. You just can't, maybe go back in the cooler and get a beverage and leave the helm, and before you know it, the boat veers off and you're running into somebody. I mean,
right.
It's just a serious. I mean, as much fun as boating is, you have to be very serious when you're operating the vessel, and just be aware of your surroundings and the other boats around you as well. I mean, the person who went back to the cooler and left the boat, running for a few seconds on its own, might be heading right for you. So you always have to keep an eye out.
Now, I took, as a lot of people have, I guess, boats, I took the boating safety course, and you actually have to take the boating safety course if you are going to pilot a boat in the waterways of this area. There are a lot of things to take into account when you're piloting a boat. What are some of the things if you're fairly new to boating and you're going to rent a boat and go out into the Raritan Bay? You obviously have to be careful of getting near the naval pier.
Yeah.
You have to be concerned about running into other ships. What are some other things that you should consider when you're out on the water?
Well, if you don't know, a lot about it, just make sure you stay in the channel at the very least, so you're not going to run aground. And also, the boat doesn't move like a car, so you try to familiarize yourself with the way a boat moves. Slides on top of the water, and how it handles before you go trying to dock it, or moving into a precarious situation where you have to be around other boats. So I mean, they give you I'm sure they give you a short tutorial at the boat rental place on how to operate the boat. But then if you take the boat out and you see a buoy, or a no-wake buoy would be a perfect example because they're plastic, then you could theoretically at that point practice maneuvering the boat around the no-wake buoy. The regular marker buoys are steel, and if you hit those, you're going to cause some damage. So that might be a nice way, an easy way to figure out how to operate this little rental boat that you're running around in.
And describe the marker buoys that define the channel boundaries. They're red and green. And they're not everywhere, but for the most part, you should stay between the red and green buoys, correct?
That's basically it, John. On the way in from sea, red, right, returning. So when you're coming, around the Sandy Hook and you're picking up the channel to go up to Shrewsbury, keep the red buoys on your right and the green ones on your left, and you're heading in to port, returning from sea, red, right, returning. And then the opposite applies. Keep the you know what I'm saying?
See, it's difficult.
I am not on the water right now, John. I can't envision it.
I also want to testify to the fact that there are a lot of submerged things, boats and and sunken barges and sandbars and that sort of thing that are outside the channel. So when you go outside the channel, you have to proceed with caution, because a couple of years ago, I took my little boat, and mine doesn't have a deep draft. It stays pretty high on the surface of the water. But I was coming home late one day. It was low tide, and I ran aground on an old sunken steel coal barge. And it was about this deep in the water, and my boat was about that deep, and I just came to a sudden screeching halt. I was thrown to the bow of the boat. The motor flipped up and made a bunch of noise, and this was my first shipwreck. Very first shipwreck. Have you...
Did you shear the prop off?
No,
the lower unit?
No, it was okay. The only thing I did
put a hole in the boat.
I did put a hole in the boat.
Oh, you did?
My boat is actually unsinkable because there are air pockets in it, and it didn't puncture into the air pockets. So I had to refiberglass it, as it were, and it's back on the water right now. So
did you sustain any personal injury?
My pride.
Yeah, well then you're lucky. Did anybody see it?
No, that's the good thing. The Sea Streak, which runs back and forth from New York to Atlantic Highlands and Sandy Hook and Highlands, does occasionally try to do battle with me. We race along, and it's always been my goal to take my little boat and go right under the Sea Streak. You know, it's what is that? A twin? What do you call that kind of hull? It's almost like a hydrofoil. It's a catamaran.
Yeah.
But I always wanted to go right through it. But I thought I might be arrested by Homeland Security, so I don't do that. But, what haven't you done? What would you like to do on a boat that you haven't done? Like to take a long trip somewhere? Would you like to go to New York? Would you like to go out into the ocean and spend a couple of days? What would you like to do?
No, I want to do the Great Loop.
What's the Great Loop?
You go up the Hudson, and then you get up to the locks, and then you get into the lakes, and you come back down around and go through the other rivers.
You are quite the captain. Now tell me,
well, I don't have my charts with me.
I understand.
And you wind up, down in Louisiana or down in
And how do you get
Texas,
home? How do you get back here? You have to come back.
Well, you sell the boat when you're down there. You sell the boat and fly home.
If you could have any boat in the world, what kind of boat would you? I mean, if you could just have a boat right now, what size would it be? And
well, the sweetest little boat, 42 Grand Banks. That's a sweet little boat. It's been in production for many years. It's a modest trawler type boat with forward and aft cabins, and generally 2 diesel motors, and you could basically go anywhere you like inshore with one of those boats, and that would be the kind of cruising my wife and I would like to do one day.
Have you ever taken the Mariner or the Mum Runner? Have you ever taken them out into Raritan Bay on a moonlit night, dropped anchor, and spent the night?
The Mum Runner, our 28-foot Olson, which was built in Keyport, we used to go to the fireworks in Red Bank, and we'd stay overnight. That wouldn't be a charter. That would be my wife and I, and we'd stay overnight. And it's great to, as they say, be on the hook overnight in a calm anchorage on any boat. Hopefully you've come prepared, and you've got your coffee pot and your makings of bacon and eggs and your little stove, and if your boat's not facilitated with a galley, and it's like camping out. It's a lot of fun. And when you're on the anchor, the tide and the wind move the boat so that the bow is into the wind. And you open the hatch and you're in the B-berth, just relaxing there with the wind coming down. And it's very relaxing.
I've seen so many different watercraft in this area. I've seen trawlers and freighters and pleasure craft and speedboats and cigarette boats and that sort of thing, and people on, I don't know what they're called, surfboards with poles or paddles and that sort of thing, where they're standing up. I don't know what those are called. But
paddle boards.
Paddle boards. What are some of the most unusual craft that you've seen come through? And of course, there's a whole array of sailboats and that sort of thing.
Yeah. The ones that startle me the most, I don't know if they're unusual. I mean, there's a lot of fishermen around our area, and the center console go fast fishing boats with the 3 or 4 outboards.
Oh.
And it's three. Man, those things fly. They can fly right by you, and they're going like 50 or 60. And then you're like, whoa, I didn't see that guy coming. Those are the ones, and there's some pretty, being in the Atlantic Highlands Harbor area, there's a lot of pretty boats that come through that are transient up and down the seaboard. You know, yachts and trawlers and sailboats, and you get to see a nice array of boats coming through that harbor. Just different style boats.
You know what? It's nice here too, because what I've noticed in boating out on the Raritan Bay and on the river and that sort of thing, there never seems to be an inordinate amount of boat traffic. You might see on a windy day the sailboats come out like gnats. They're all over the place. A little wind and they all come out immediately. They must be living on the sailboats waiting for the wind. But there's never so much boat traffic that you get nervous. Maybe on a busy summer weekend, possibly. But it's all pretty manageable. This is a pretty big bay, this Raritan Bay.
Yeah, it is.
There seems to be room for everybody, and I think therein lies the danger, that you can kind of lose touch with the fact that you're not the only boat in town, and that if you let your boat get away from you and you're just kind of floating or drift fishing, you could run into somebody. But it's a big bay, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, John. And then, the channels, that's where you want to fish. The drop off, the depth, that's where the bait fish hide, and then the bigger fish that you want to catch are there. So when you talk about drift fishing, or, a lot of times you'll be, running up into the channel and there's a guy fishing in the middle of the channel. So you just slow down, wave as you go by, and then, go fast. But, don't go flying by the guy. He's just, relaxing, having a good day, with his family, trying to catch some fish.
The nice thing I like about going out with you, Dan, is you really have an appreciation for everything around you, and as you take people out on the boat, you're not just the captain, and you're not isolated from the people or the passengers that are on your boat. You'll stop and you'll tell them stories about this or about that, and they always. I've been with you the few times that I've been with you. I've seen you do that, and everybody seems to really enjoy that. You're kind of a tour guide, aren't you?
Yeah, I could be, John. I think so. Yeah, I mean, I love Jersey Bayshore area. I've lived here all my life, so it's nice to share the passion of the area with other people. The sights and different points of interest, and even if you're not, having things pointed out to you, you just be on the boat just looking around, and you might not know what things are, but you're certainly enjoying them and appreciating them.
And it's such a pleasure to have you here on the program.
John, good to be back. I thank you very much for having me.